Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us Jeremie Kubicek, who is the Executive Chairman of GiANT, a company that certifies coaches and consultants that serve companies and their employees. Jeremie, welcome to the program.
So good to be with you, Mike. Thanks for all you do.
Hey, you're welcome. Happy to have you on. I love learning about new people that I meet, and it's a wonderful way to network and get to know people as you get to know the company. So I'm excited to learn about GiANT, and I love the name GiANT. I want to hear how you came up with the name. It makes me think of, have goals, but have giant goals, or have a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal. So give us a little bit of your background and your entrepreneurial journey, and then let's dive into what GiANT is.
Yeah, the name is actually interesting. It's GiANT with a little I, big G, little I, and it came actually from a car accident. And when I was we started the business and went to Cancun, got hit by a drunk driver while in a hurricane, and almost lost my life. And literally one of those, got to see my life flash before my eyes. So when we came back, I squashed the little I, and it stands for humility, doing big things in a humble way.
Nice.
And that's what GiANT stands for. And so my entrepreneurial background is I've started 28 companies probably since I was 21 years old. Wow. And so I lived in Russia and started 3 companies with some partners in early 90s, and then have built all types of businesses ever since. And so I get and understand the entrepreneurial business, if you will, and the idea of how do you create companies that are sustainable, how do you build talent, how do you handle cash flow, how do you handle strategy. That's what I do.
And starting all those companies, I'm sure we could spend about the next 4.5 hours on, let's talk about the mistakes you made and learn from, because you have to realize that when you start a company, it's wonderful that you started it, but then you have to watch for those hurdles and roadblocks and learn from them, not let them turn you under and devastate you, because in reality, those problems really are those learning experiences. It's like the old saying, you win or you learn, because people typically say, lose. No, you win or you learn. And I think that's really, really cool. So now your company, GiANT, focuses on training leaders, right?
Yeah. So our main business, we've created content around knowing yourself and leading yourself. And we figured out how to scale leader development inside organizations. I bought John Maxwell's assets years ago. I used to own the Maxwell companies. Built the LeaderCast, the Catalyst conferences, all these big events. But we couldn't figure out how to get leadership to stick and stay inside organizations until recently. And we figured out just some neuroscience, some real simple, scalable tools and language, but they're all around knowing yourself to lead yourself. And so now we basically certify people to do what we've done for decades. And that's the certification process that is GiANT.
And so a couple things stuck out at me there, which is, it's fine to learn something, but you got to make it stick. And it makes me think of the old saying, knowledge is power. Well, people go, yeah, knowledge is power. No, it's not. It's potential power. You got to do something with it. The true power is implementing it, putting it into action. So that's all fine and good that you could breeze in and work with an organization to teach them this, that, or the other in 2 or 3 days, or whatever the case is, or whatever the time frame is. But after you leave, the true test is coming back in a period of time, whatever time that is, and going, ooh, you're still doing it, and you've taken it to the next level. So at what point was your aha that you noticed you kind of got, sick and tired of being sick and tired of seeing these organizations going, you're not doing what we talked to? When did you notice that, and then how did you come up with the solution to make it stick?
Yeah, so the idea, leaders define culture and sub-leaders define subcultures. And I started to figure out that companies are made up of teams. That's it. They're made up of subcultures. If you get the subculture leaders to play and they actually implement, and it's something that has to be simple enough for them to get. Well, because of time, because of the drama of people, you have to do short micro learnings. And so we figured out that most adults they're cynical know-it-alls and they don't read anymore. So because of that, and they have their own attention issues, right? So because of that, we created visual tools and a common language, and we figured out how to implement it in a simple way that was sustainable and could scale by getting the subculture leaders to buy in and then use it. And they use it at home with their family, and they use it with themselves, and they use it with their team. And that was part of the secret sauce. But we have about 70 tools that we use, and we have formulas like the 5 voices, which makes, if anyone's done Myers-Briggs, it's so much simpler than Myers-Briggs or DISC or Enneagram, that it scales. And we created emotional intelligence tools, and we created skill-based tools, and we created personality tools. All of those were tools that teams could actually get, and they learn in about 15 minutes and can practice and teach someone else on a cocktail napkin. And because when you teach, you learn.
Yeah.
And so we created a system around teaching people to teach people, which means learning happens and they become more effective leaders.
Yeah, learning is reinforced, and I think I love that. It kind of reminds me of some of the methodology you hear today around, facts tell, but stories sell. And if you can make a point in a story, some of the best books out there, the Bob Burg's Go Giver and, Who Moved My Cheese, all those fictional stories that you can read quickly, but they make a powerful business lesson. Very similar to what you're saying there. You've discovered that because our attention span is probably, you've heard the example about the goldfish, goldfish have a longer attention span than us. Well, let's cater to that. Let's make sure that this learning is quick, hard-hitting, to the point. In fact, it's interesting that you say that, and I just thought of this as you were saying it. I've done some research because I help clients get published without writing a word, because people are busy, right? Well, I found that 68% of all books are never read. So I've come up with a type of book called the brevity book, which is hard-hitting, quick, meant to be read in one sitting, and takes all of your knowledge you want to impart to people and just gets it into that one sitting. And now it's like, oh, I need to take action because of what I learned. Same exact thing as what you're talking about here is you've got to get these leaders and sub-leaders, which I love that dichotomy, because the sub-leaders are out there, doing it. And then the leaders are going, oh, if they're doing it, I can too. And it kind of plays with each other, right? Kind of one encourages the other.
That's right. And it's common language. We figured out that most all drama is subjectivity. But when you give an objective language, so we created tools that become mirrors. And when you look at a mirror, you can see your own broccoli in your own teeth, and you'll actually want to get it out. And so basically all of our tools are mirrors in visual form because people aren't reading as much. So because the visual reinforcement with common language, it then focuses on getting people 100% healthy and then teaching them how to multiply. And that's the secret inside organizations. Most people don't know how to multiply. So at GiANT, we've just so fixated and focused on the content, and then we added a technology platform that makes it so simple. It's like Peloton meets Netflix with these tools, and people are loving the technology with it. It reinforces the scalability. So we work with companies like Google and Pfizer and Biogen and the U.S. Air Force and all of these different organizations that have large amount of people, but they finally get GiANT works. This scales. So we just now certify people around the world to use it. And we also certify them in a very, very inexpensive, low cost that shocks people. They're like, what? Because we've basically learned how to turn it into almost like a Netflix model. It's not very expensive.
Neat.
And that's how we're changing the leader development world.
And you also talk about the 100X leader. What is that? Because I know that we hear the Grant Cardone 10X, so you're upping him with an extra zero there.
Yeah. Well, it's really not about 10. Like for the business, it's about the health. So 100 means the health of a person. X means multiplication. Yeah. Most leaders are 75 plus. They're generally healthy, and they'll add value. Like, hey, my door's always open. If you need anything, come to me. But we use the metaphor of 100X as a Sherpa on Mount Everest. The Sherpa is the healthiest person on the mountain, and they're helping you get to the next level. So they never carry you up the mountain, but they help you get up the mountain.
Yeah.
So but no one wants to follow an asthmatic Sherpa on Mount Everest. So it's like you actually have to be the healthiest person in the room. If you're going to be the leader, then that means that you have to be someone that people want to follow, not have to follow. And we basically take people on a journey. If you want to get healthy, here's what you have to do. If you want to multiply and learn how to be a multiplying leader, here's what you have to do. But it's really hard to move from a 75 plus to a 100x.
And it sounds to me like there's a holistic approach to things. It's not just, here's our content, and while it's engaging and easy to consume and learn and implement, there's more to it than just what goes in the head. You've got to have a full comprehensive approach, and then the exponential effect takes effect, right?
Exactly. And it all starts with yourself. It's know yourself to lead yourself. Mm-hmm. Then you get into know your family to lead your family, then know your team to lead your team. We want people to practice it with themselves, and they look in a mirror and they see what their tendencies are and their patterns, and they start realizing that they have these actions they do that drive everyone crazy, and they start leading themselves. Because when you lead yourself, you're credible, and you're not a hypocrite, which is most leaders are. They ask people to do something they're not willing to do. Yeah. So we go inward first, then we go to family and try it out at home. And you're like, this works. Then they go, oh my gosh, they need this at work. So it reinforces that it works because you're doing it with yourself personally.
I really love that approach because I find that when I talk to people about goals, and it'll be like, hey, do you do a to-do list? And of course you do. And then you ask the question, do you ever find yourself adding something to your goal or your to-do list just so you can tick it off because it gives you that momentum and excitement and validation? Well, what you're doing there is you're starting inside yourself first, getting that validation and momentum. And then when you implement these strategies with your family, what invariably happens, I would suspect, is your family, kids, spouse, extended family notice, say something positive, and then that just fuels you to keep on improving, and then now it expands out to then in your professional life.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty from an entrepreneur. I basically have built a business that allows, we currently have about 600 consultants. Some are side hustle, part-time, and some are full-time using our business for their business. Yeah. And so we've incentivized it in that regard. And so it's so fun to support 600 entrepreneurs, and we're moving to, thousands that we think will eventually be in the GiANT system. But it's we partner with people. So it's not about them adopting they become an employee. They're like, no, actually we partner with you to help you, leverage the ability to have influence and the ability to impact people and get paid for it. And that's the fun part about business, right? Is you can use business as a platform for good.
Yeah. And if you have a tool like your platform and your certification and your curriculum, one person could use it one way in a certain vertical, and then another coach, consultant, leader could use it a whole different way, but it's the same content. And so I think that's where you're talking about coming alongside, right?
Exactly. Or if you're inside a business, you can get certified. We call them catalysts. A catalyst is an internal champion. You can get certified to use a system inside a company. And we just made it so because of technology and because of what you can do these days to scale, we've made it so low cost that cost is not a barrier. And so, but it all starts, every single person who comes through the GiANT ecosystem has to start your own journey for your own transformation. So you have to go through your own self-awareness. This isn't just a product that you're selling. It's actually, you have to experience it for yourself. So we cause you to look in mirrors, and we cause you to see the broccoli in your teeth, and we cause you to see, to learn how to call yourself up, and we cause you to see certain tendencies that you have, not to dominate yourself, not to show weakness, but to actually grow. And that personal growth becomes infectious. And then you're like, oh my goodness, everyone needs to go through the 5 voices or the 5 gears or 100X or whatever. And that's how we built and scaled our business.
That's amazing. So when you, I want to circle back around to that concept of implementation and making sure that it sticks. Let's give us an example of what that looks like in the sense of one of your certified consultants goes in, works with an organization, helps them see change, implement change. Is it something where your model is such that they're coming back monthly, quarterly, or they're scaling back, or they're circling back around? How does it look to have an engagement to just make sure that those principles are actually being followed and implemented?
Yeah, so they're in different levels. We have on one end, we have certain companies that just use what we call Sherpa training. It's your own personal journey, and it's a session every week for 7 to 10 minutes. It's kind of like your books you were talking about, the brevity books. It's like 7 minutes a week, and you add one tool to your tool belt every week. Well, that happens, and that can happen autonomously without anyone. And in other cases, like an example of one of our consultants in Denver named Landon Lynch, he's awesome. He basically does toolkit sessions with executives, and they'll come in with an executive team that's growing at a fast pace. He adds a tool in, has a conversation, then he works through any pain points that they would have with a core group of executives. Or it could be coaching one-to-one, or it could be workshops that are happening, or it could be keynotes. In certain places, those are still a thing, keynotes and workshops. But in most places, they're done with executive teams where we're teaching people how to use the system, and then we scale it internally into these sub-teams. So we have a program called Invincible Teams. Invincible Teams is a journey for a team to go on, and then we end up training the team leader to take it on, and then they lead toolkit sessions themselves, whether they need an external person or not. So it kind of just depends on each company. They're different. But we've given it individual, one-to-one coaching, team, or corporate. There's all types of different programs that you can run, all built on the technology and all built on the tools.
I just absolutely love it. To me, it feels, if I were to think of a word that describes this, just clear, concise, and actionable. And another plug I'll give to another book I love is Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. Have you ever read that one?
Yep, sure.
What you described is being that guide. You're teaching these coaches and consultants to come alongside of organizations and guide them through your curriculum and guide them through then their next steps. So I just think it's spectacular. I just love what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's just like anything, and anyone listening who's an entrepreneur, how hard it is. And so the beauty is we just continue to work on the business. And I use like the metaphor of a highway. Like we're trying to build a super highway for lots of people to work on. There's times when you realize that you're a 2-lane road and you need a 4-lane. There's times when you need a bridge and the bridge is out. So we just keep perfecting the system because of technology. You can do iterations very, very quickly. And that's what's happening. And we're just every week we get better. And then every month and every quarter. And then over time, you create a superhighway for lots of people to play.
Yep.
And that's really where we're at now, is we actually create a superhighway for people to build businesses off the back of this, or add it to your company, or add it as a side hustle. And again, we realized cost is always an issue. So we just said, let's make it below $250 a month. Well, that's nothing for a company or an individual to be able to do. So, and then you make money off of it. So you can very easily pay for that. And that's the way that we're scaling a 21st century leader development business.
I think it's spectacular. Well, Jeremie, let's wrap up with what's the best way that people can reach out, connect with you, learn more about Giant Coach.
Yeah, if you go to giantcoach.com, so giantcoach.com/intentional, then that leads to your specific site, and that gives someone a chance. And in it, you can take a free assessment if you want to learn what your own personality and your own voice is. You can learn about the certification. You can go into any of the details. All of it will connect, but you can play. And actually, if you want to know your personality, it's really fun. Just go take the 5 voices test there. And or if you want to see the certification details, it's all clear on giantcoach.com/intentional.
Excellent. I will have the direct link right in the show notes. You can click on that and go right there as well. Well, Jeremie, thank you so much for coming on today. It was really a great time getting to know you and your great company.
Likewise. Thanks, Mike. Cheers.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.